Everyone, today we're going to talk about navigating asylum and immigration court and what you need to know with a little bit of some know your rights. We're recording this in towards the end of February 20th, 2025. So there's lots of things that have been changing. And so we just wanted to let you know things can constantly be updated. So my name is Ruby Powers, and I'm a board certified immigration attorney with Powers Law Group. And we are here to help provide information, general information, board certified with in immigration with Texas, and been practicing for 16 years, but I've been in immigration even longer than that in a non-lawyer capacity. So we're going to talk a little bit about asylum, a little bit of court, asylum in court, and then some other know your rights. But again, you can always have a consultation, and this that doesn't take the place of a consultation. So hopefully this is still helpful though. So what's really important to know is that asylum it comes down to, have you had past persecution or fear future persecution on account of one of 5 protected grounds. And so the 5 protected grounds are really important to note, because sometimes people get confused as to what it is. And so it's race, religion, nationality, political opinion, and membership in a particular social group. The membership in a particular social group is one of those that's a little bit more malleable, but there is a case law that we look to, but it has to be what they call I'm saying it slow, I'm saying it wrong here, cognizable, which means you have to be identify that group. And it's a series of case law that's been out there that helps us know what is considered the membership in a particular social group. Because you're like, what's that group? Well, that's what you can make that you can work to help identify why the group should be protected. Now, the protection is from deportation, but it's also from allowing legal authorization and a pathway to permanent residency. And you need to apply within 1 year of arrival, but there are some exceptions. So generally what it looks like is you file I-589 with USCIS or the immigration court. Now, if you're affirmatively or you're not in court, then you would file it with USCIS. You could file over paper or online. In immigration court, you can also file it over paper or online. But for the most part, if you don't have an attorney, it can be a little complicated about your filing process. But I won't go into all of those details right now. After it's been filed, then you'll be getting a biometrics request. That means to do fingerprints and a photo to verify who you are, so they can have it in their database. And then you're either going to be waiting for an interview or a hearing. Just late breaking news, I've been hearing of people getting interviews really soon for people who filed more recently, but that might not be around the country with the different backlogs that exist and everything. Court sometimes can take a really long time. Sometimes it can be a couple of years. So let's move over to preparing. So whether or not you're in affirmative, which is with the asylum office, or defensive with immigration court, no matter what, same applies. You want to get prepared. You want to gather evidence to help prove it's your burden to prove this information. So country reports, witness statements, and personal documentation statement, be truthful and detailed. But make sure you know that inconsistencies will weaken your credibility. What does that mean? And he's like, if you say it was 5 people and then one day you say it was 3 people on the stand, then they'll be like, why did you get that wrong? That's a pretty big difference between 5 and 3. And so what we know from having represented many people, like at least people from 43 different countries on asylum alone, is that when people are traumatized and they have gone through so much, that it's easy to forget these details, but it's really important to think through these before you submit. Because sometimes what people do is they'll submit something on their own or with a notario or something, and then later on they'll hire an attorney, and then we have to go and clean up things and help explain why there was inconsistencies, and it gets really hard on the case. Now you need to understand the process, which is what we're going through here, and it's really important to have an experienced immigration attorney. When I say experienced, I mean has done stuff like this before, and I say immigration, I mean like has done immigration before and does a predominantly amount of immigration, and has a good reputation. Check around, make sure that they they do have a good reviews, and it's not just like a friend that you're taking their advice, you're also double checking them. Now, it's your burden to prove. What does that mean? It's up to you to prove this stuff. And so you can't just say, oh, well, they can look this stuff up. No, that's your job. The court backlogs can take years. We've got some cases that have been pending like a decade. For the most part, some of those have been closed already or terminated, but there have been some times where we had them really long time. It can be very dangerous not to have an immigration attorney supporting you through this process. The statistics are pretty bad for those who don't have representation, unfortunately. And I understand it's a lot about resources, but that's why we're providing information, and we are trying to be a resource for the community during this time. Lots of changes happen, and so you always have to keep an eye on that. So what's the difference between court and USCIS? Well, USCIS handles the affirmative, where you go into an asylum officer's office, and it's sort of like a small, maybe 10 by 10, 10 by 12. It's less adversarial. What does that mean? It means like you're just having a conversation. They're asking questions and they're typing up the answers. Immigration court, it's a little bit different because the ACC or trial attorney is finding weaknesses in your case, and the judge is there to make a decision, and you're there with your attorney putting on the merits of the case. And so it's a little bit different format, and with court, it's pretty much that's where things end. You either get approved or, you know, denied for the most part. Maybe dismissed, but for the most part, it's either approved or denied. And so the adversarial aspect is what is a major difference, and that you're at the end of the road on the court. So if you get asylum granted, yay! And then you can apply for legal permanent residency, and you can also consider petitioning for spouse and children if they were in other countries within 2 years. It's called an I-730. If you're denied, then you want to evaluate your options for doing an appeal. We have 30 days to file that. You do not want to do that at the last minute. Don't want to stress yourself out. It's a form that has a filing fee. And then later you'll get the briefing schedule. And then you also, there could be other forms of relief, like maybe you got withholding or Convention Against Torture, which is really a deportation order, but you get to stay here and get a work authorization. So if it's denied, then you're probably looking at doing an appeal. Now, at this very moment, we used to say that TPS could get you out of court for the most part, but TPS is being discontinued for Venezuela, and it could be for some other, but we don't know at this moment, at the time of the recording. U visa used to be a reason that you would be able to stay here while the court was pending, or to get you out of court, but under the Trump administration, that's not necessarily the case. There's also pre-hearing and post-hearing voluntary departure, which is another potential option. Now, one of the big things people always ask about is, when can you get work authorization? Well, the gist of it is once your asylum application is filed and you don't cause any delays, you can file for the work authorization after 150 days. They have 180 days total have to elapse before they can approve your I-765. And you can keep renewing your work authorization, which right now for asylum is for 5 years, which is amazing. It used to be 1, then it was 2, now it's 5. And so that's awesome. And even while your case has been denied and you're doing an appeal, you can still renew your work authorization. Now, this is a little bit about court type of things that's important to note. But we've done some talks about this in the Know Your Rights. ICE cannot enter your home without a judicial warrant. Remember, a judicial warrant is one that's signed by a judge. Down at the bottom, usually says district court at the top. Don't sign anything without consulting a lawyer or being able to understand what you're signing. Attend all hearings and have a plan, emergency plan, which we're going to do a session about a family preparedness plan later on. Now, common mistakes with asylum is the missing deadlines or inconsistencies in what you're saying, or failing to attend to hearing, or not seeking help. All of these things are so important to make sure you don't make mistakes. Now, there's different resources out there. There's a lot of different groups that have been losing funding recently, so there's going to be a shortage of those who can be there to assist you. The American Immigration Lawyers Association is not necessarily a legal aid organization, but it is an association of lawyers, and you can look to see for a directory, and it does have a lot of resources. There's a lot of other organizations as well. But there is shortage of funding at this moment, but depending on where you are, and these are just some resources. So make sure you're staying up to date on different where you get your news from. USCIS has information, American Immigration Council, American Immigration Lawyers Association. You might want to join some advocacy groups to sort of stay in touch with what's going on, and also check your status on USCIS or immigration court regularly. Make sure you stay informed of what's going on. Again, we can't say it enough, having a trusted, experienced immigration attorney, building a strong case is important. And it's good to stay in touch with others in this similar situation so you can learn from them and see what you how you can benefit your case. But at the same time, make sure you're getting reliable information. You're not just playing with like telephone where you're like, oh, well, my friend did this and this and that. That can be really dangerous. So make sure that I would say, have at least a couple of immigration consultations and feel comfortable with your attorney. You have rights and options, so make sure to use them. Knowledge is power. Don't sign if you don't understand what it is, and stay informed. So this is just a really general overview of what's going on right now. And one of the biggest things is that to avoid expedited removal is to know that you need to have proof or be explained that you've been here more than 2 years. If you're within 100 miles of an international border, which 2/3 of the nation is, then if you have proof of less than 2 years here, then you could be expeditedly removed, which means you do not get to see a judge. Now here at Powers Law Group, we have multiple attorneys who can assist you. We have online scheduling for consultations. You can reach us on all these different platforms, and our newsletter comes out in English and Spanish every other week. You can watch our videos. We do have a lot of great material out there, and we're going to continue to have more webinars here in February. So thank you so much for watching, and definitely can give us a call at 713-589-2085 and reach us at rubypowerslaw.com. Have a great day. Thank you.